Hello, this is Frank Marcassani. What I'm about to play for you is a series, so it's actually one long recording cut together into pieces, and I'll explain that kind of on the back end. But basically, this is a recording my father made discussing his family history, at least his mother's side of the family, with his aunt, his mother's sister, Amelia. So his mother was Giuseppina Ingignoli. She married his father, Frank or Francesco Rocco Marcassani. They both came from Italy. He came from Genoa. She came from a village outside Milan. What this recording is a recording he made back in the late 90s. So you hear Mealie's voice, but you also hear at the end her husband, Rene, or Rene as we called him, Rene as he was known, who was a World War II vet. And his story is amazing, and maybe I'll make a recording about that at some point. But these are recordings we found after my father passed. They were on these little cassette tapes. And so a few years after he passed, I kind of found a way to jerry rig and put them together digitally, and I had them for years, and then finally decided let me try to piece them all together, do a little bit of an intro, and then put them out there on YouTube for all eternity. So again, this is going to go through the family history of my grandmother. She lived in New Jersey for most of her life, or almost all of it when she came to the States. But anyway, this was from a trip my dad took down to see Mealie. She was probably in her early 90s or so. She lived in Florida at the time, outside of Melbourne, in a place called Barefoot Bay. So I hope you enjoy this recording. And like I said, at the back end of this, I'll give a little bit more information about this story.
What year you came to the States?
We really, I always say 76 because 75 we traveled 9 months
No,
all
no,
around.
you. When did you?
Me in 1913.
With Grandma? Okay, and how
That's
long?
what they say. I was 2 years old.
You were two. Okay, and
If they got that straight, I don't
and
know.
how long after that did Mom come? How many years was it? Did my
Uh-huh.
mother come here?
Oh, Lena came. Lena came in. She was 12. I was 10.
Okay.
And that was two.
So it was 8 years
years
after.
later.
And she came with who? Uncle Tony?
Uncle Tony.
And who else? Just Uncle Tony?
Just, well, one of the Paisan women were on, too. Came
From Pará.
From Pará.
Mm-hmm.
See, my mother was supposed to go back the following year. In fact, she said that when she left, her mother, or my father's mother said, Maria, don't go to America. He had come before my father.
It was your grandmother said that.
Yeah, my father's son.
Yeah.
He had come a year before. Then, of course, he wanted my mother to come to America, naturally. Because, he drank and all that. And she said, Maria, don't go. She said, he's not going to change. Don't go to America.
Now, this is what I've never really had straight in my mind. Grandma, your mom, was married twice, right? Was she
Yeah.
married? Okay. What was her maiden name?
Her maiden name
Her maiden,
was,
before she got married the first time.
Well, it was Ingegnoli.
Oh, was it? That's right. Like Tony and Juan and
Yeah.
the other guys. Okay.
Ingegnoli. She was their sister.
Okay. And
Their sister. Yeah, then she married George later on.
okay. So your father, did he die early, or did they get
My
divorced?
father died.
What was the circumstances?
Circumstances there. We moved from New York.
And his name was Maroney? What was?
Yeah, Maroney.
Maroney.
Amelia Maroney.
Okay, so you were Amelia Maroney, and that was Giuseppina Maroney.
That's right.
Okay. And Grandma was Ingegnoli first, then Maroney and Rivera.
Right.
Okay.
And now what was I saying?
You were just discussing about coming here.
Well, she came me here. Her mother-in-law said, Maria, don't go. He's not going to change.
Is that the reason she left? Was because he was a drinker?
Yes. So she came here. When he met her, when he got word that she was coming, and he met her at the docks, he gave her a good slap in the face.
Here.
He was ready to go back, you see. He didn't fear.
Oh, so in other words, not that he abandoned you, but he left.
He left. No,
this was from Verona? This was from Verona?
No, from Milan.
Milano.
Yeah.
Itself,
My
the
mother
major
married
city.
this guy from Milano.
I
and
see.
when he came one time to see the family, see her by train, so from Verona to Milano, it's about 50 miles.
Okay, so Grandma was a Verona native.
Yeah.
Okay, and this my I guess a great grandfather. I guess my grandfather. It would be my grandfather.
Your grandfather is your grandfather.
Right. So he was from Milano.
My father was from Milano. My mother had gone to work in Milano. She met him. I don't know how she met him because Grandma never.
And how long were they married? Or how long before the separation took place, or whatever? Or did he die, or?
Well, wait a minute.
I know. I'm just trying. Like I said, there's so much I need.
So we lived in New York until I was 14 and a half.
Right.
I graduated from school. Then we moved to West New York. Nice apartment. You overlook the Hudson. Could see the Hudson.
With him?
Oh yeah, my father was with him. He then got a job at a tavern in Union City, which was the worst thing because he was drinking grappa.
Yeah, he was an alcoholic, huh?
All the time. Your mother and father were in Union City. We were up West New York. I remember that. Then I went a year to high school, and then my mother said, I would have liked to have been a teacher. Of course, that meant finishing high school and going to college. I couldn't have been a teacher.
Was my mother and father married at that time?
Yes, your mother and father were married because I remember from when I was still in New York at 14 years old, we used to go over to Jersey to see your mother and father. So your father then was married. Your father, when he came over with Lena, he stayed a short while with us. Then he got married. He didn't want to stay in.
That was Uncle John. I mean,
not your father,
Uncle Tony.
Uncle Tony. So yeah, they were married.
So they lived in Union City.
They were in Union City.
Wow.
We were in West New York. Then my mother said, "Well, look, I can't send you to college or that, but I'll send you a year to business school." And I said, "Okay." By that time, I was 16. 17.
But you guys didn't live together. You guys lived apart.
Who?
With my mother. My mother was here, and you were there.
Oh yeah.
Lena.
No, Lena was here.
Yeah, she was here, but not living with you.
Sure, she was.
She was living. You said Union City.
Oh, your mother. I'm saying Aunt Gina. Tony, was in Union City. No, your mother was with us.
Oh, okay.
Your mother was
Gotcha.
studying to be a beautician.
Yes, okay.
She was older than I was. She was 16.
She was 2 years older than you.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
18 months.
Yeah, like Frank and.
Yeah. So, everything, fine. My father worked, but when my mother heard that he was with this tavern, she didn't like the idea because he drank. Then he drank more and more, and then he started to abuse, be nasty. I will say, he wasn't a bad man. I can't say that my father beat me or scolded me. My mother was more the one with the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
He was a weak man, put it that way. When he was sober, he never said a word.
And what was his first name?
Eduardo.
Eduardo Maroni.
Right. Then, of course, I remember one time coming from business school with one of the other gals. Got off the bus, to take a bus. There's my father in front of us. He's drunk as could be. Then you know at that age.
That's embarrassing, yeah.
And the girl said, "Oh, there's the father." Well, anyway, then it got real nasty.
So did Grandma... Oh, good.
Then that's when my mother said she had it. So we left that apartment. Yeah, I remember. Then when one time we left his stupor. He was having whatever you call it, when they get cold.
DTs.
DTs. He was having the DTs. That's when she had it. Then she took an apartment up near Palisade Park. Lena was always with. We were always all together.
Right.
Myself and my mother. And then one he must have wondered where we went. See, then she moved out of that place. It was a nice apartment. It was New York. I was going to business school. Lena was learning. He must have followed Lena. He knew where she worked at this. He was no dopey either. So I stayed overnight at some friend's house. It was a Saturday. And that's when he knocked on the door and said he was a delivery man, but she recognized the voice.
Oh, she was a small woman. I mean, not that my mother was small, but Mealie was...
And the letter. telling him that if he was ever caught in New Jersey, he'd be arrested. And then he never bothered her again.
And then, did you find out later when he died, or?
No. So then, all right, now that was, I was then about 16, 17.
That was about
16.
1928, right before the Depression.
Yeah. Then we took an apartment down in Woodcliff, 3-room apartment. My mother, Lena, and I. Lena then was working, and I was working at Miller's, I think then. Yeah, I was working. I was 17.
How many years was you at Miller? You've been there a long time, weren't
16
you?
years I was at Miller's.
Some of you were there when he was captured. I remember you were still working there.
Yeah, but I left. I left then. But anyway. So he never bothered. My mother got then we went to court. And Lena came too. And it's funny. People react differently when under pressure. You know, in court I had to say that how my father was with us. Mm-hmm. And I told the truth, you know, that he drank and all. And Lena laughed. And that was the nervousness. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's how it struck her.
Yeah.
Then I looked at her and then I said, what are you laughing at? She said, can't help it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. So then...
Where was this? In West New York? Or where was the courtroom? Was it New York City? Or
No.
Yeah?
West New York or Union City.
Yeah.
Or whatever. We had to go to court. But it took my mother 2 years to get... She had to wait 2 years, see.
Yes.
She waited. So then I was about 18. And that's the time when then I met Renee. We were in that apartment, and Lena then started going with her father.
But that was her husband. Why was she putting the onus on you guys to do it when she should have?
Way up Woodcliff. We were his daughters.
I know that.
But she wasn't his wife anymore.
I understand. A daughter is a daughter forever, yeah.
Don't forget.
Right.
That she was not his wife anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
And,
okay.
Right?
Yes, that's right.
In the meantime, I never knew, and Lena never knew, that he used to go and visit my aunt in Pittsburgh. You didn't know that?
That was Elso's mother.
Yeah. See? In Pittsburgh. So, all right, we're called in. After all, we are the 2 daughters. Called in to where he worked. He worked on... At the Pennsylvania station, the big restaurant there. What was the name of that restaurant?
Oh, I don't know.
They had a name.
Yeah.
We went, we saw his boss, and he saw we were the daughters. And he said, I can't quite understand this. He said, your father, he said, during the war, bought a lot of what do you call it? Bonds.
War bonds.
War bonds here, and it seems there aren't any, you know. And he said, how did he put it? And something about your mother. And I said, well, my mother and father were divorced. So, then we had a bank book with $800, $800 or $900. That naturally went. Oh, then they said. Then we had to see Then they said they wanted to see my mother's divorce papers before they gave us the bank book to make sure she was divorced. Lena and I were entitled to whatever he had.
Yes.
So I go to Grandma and I tell her, and she said, well, yeah, I have the divorce papers. She couldn't find the divorce papers. And who was there but Mabel?
Yeah, okay.
Mabel was visiting her.
Well,
And I was a nervous wreck.
Were they married already, Elsa and
Yeah,
Mabel?
yeah. And I was already worried about him who was a prisoner. Then my father passed away. Had to make arrangements. I did. A few drunks came. It was very sad.
Mm.
And my mother can't find the divorce papers. And so Mabel, and I got a little upset, and Mabel said, I'm going home. So off she went. Well, anyway, she had to go to her lawyer, get a copy of the divorce papers. So, there was I think $900, $450 each or $400 each. So Lena got half. One thing with Lena, we never argued about that. You know, I mean, we were glad together. We didn't think we'd get anything. Then,
Mealie, you got any more garbage?
no, just
I put it out to
all right. I just want to finish because I have.
All right, go ahead. I can hold this
So
up.
then, now I forgot my.
What about getting the money? You said Mom never argued about
No, we never did. You know, we divided half. But in the meantime, we that he had a life insurance policy of $3,000, and the beneficiary was Aunt Victoria
in Italy?
in Pittsburgh.
Oh, in Pittsburgh.
Well, Lena hit the scene.
Oh, God.
I don't think she ever forgave Victoria for that.
I could see my mother.
Oh, she was furious. Even she said, if he didn't want to give it, I can see Mom, or even you or me, but he could have left it to my children. She felt, Lena.
Yep.
One thing Aunt Victoria did, she then paid the funeral expenses.
Well, that was good.
That was good.
Sure it was.
$400, that was good. And you people, the first thing your father did, he bought the piano.
That's where the piano came from. Okay, because I remember I was the player, and then I went away for the summer. I come back, and I didn't play anymore, and he got rid of it.
He
But
did.
that was the third story on 30th Street. I remember the piano, really. I certainly remember the piano.
That's the story.
Yeah,
But Lena
I was like
never
6.
forgave Aunt Victoria, because we never, well then Aunt Victoria, then she died and he died, and all, but she never, I said, don't look at it that way, Lena. After all, I said, you know, he's divorced from Mama, yes, but she said, even if he could have left it, well, we got it because we were his daughters, see? But she said to sign and to put Victoria, but I think when he had his vacation, he'd go and see Victoria, and Victoria was nice to him, and, you know.
Oh, boy.
I also
Well, what...
was taken over one time. That was his mother.
So actually, we're talking about remembering back into, like, the late 1800s.
I guess so, sure.
Like your grandfather.
When Escalade then was 16, he saw that his father took care of the whole thing. Like my mother always said, they were very lucky. They had white bread. A lot of her friends always had this brown bread. And
Okay.
she'd swap with them.
And where was this? In Nevada?
In Varna.
It was in Varna. It evolved around Varna, huh?
So when he was 16, he realized he was doing a lot of errands for the rich people who came there, you know, for the month or 6 weeks or whatever, and not getting paid. Naturally, they would say, Hercule,
Do this, do
or
that.
they would do that. And he left and went to France. And he never came back.
Now this would be your
Uncle. Like
uncle.
Uncle
Uncle. Right. Okay. So your uncle.
Tony was the youngest one,
Right.
6 months.
Right. So Tony was your uncle, Victoria was your aunt, and
Right.
and Maria, I was your mom.
Yeah.
But it was Ingenuity, right?
Oh, yeah. You know.
Yeah. And they were all out of Varna.
Peter, too.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But Rosetta now
yeah, that was your aunt, right?
is my aunt.
Right. I met them when I went
Yeah,
over
but
there.
now I'm a little confused.
About what?
I'm confused who was the first wife and who was the second, were children of the second wife.
Well, they all had the name Ingenuity, right?
Well, yeah, because it was the grandfather's name. His wife died and she left, I always hear she left 5 children. See?
But there was 6.
But there must have been, there was, see, now I'm confused. There
Because-
was Escalade,
Now I don't know what.
Tony.
I met them all except Ercole and Victoria. I never went to Pittsburgh. I never met her. But John, Tony, Peter, and Rosetta and Grandma had the traditional Ingenuity nose.
Peter?
Yeah, the one I stayed with in Varna when I went on vacation there. Tony's brother, Uncle Peter. Was he the lone one that was outside the family?
I don't know of Uncle Peter. Wait a minute. Which uncle was it that died? That was Peter.
Yeah. I stayed in his house the 2 or 3 times I went to Barat when I was in the Army.
Well, did he have the new house?
No.
No, he was in the old section.
Right, and in fact, Renato was his son.
Right, we met him.
And he had the features of
Well, then
the
it was
ingenuity.
6 children.
Yes, it
then
was.
It was 6.
Because, as I said, the one that I remember.
But Rosetta is from the second mother.
Okay.
Is it only Rosetta?
I don't know. That's all.
That's what I don't know. Isn't that funny?
But we're talking here like the late 1800s
That's right.
and the mid 1800s, so to speak, and then coming up forward to that's almost that's 150 years of relations.
Evidently the grandmother was a very good woman. She was probably had never married or that, and everyone couldn't understand how she could marry and get the 5 children because Uncle Tony was 6 months old. He was the youngest.
Yeah. How many years was Grandma over him?
She was about 8, I guess, because she said she used to carry Uncle John on her shoulder.
Yeah.
And like she said, she was glad when her father got married. At least there was a woman there taking care of,
Yeah.
But she made a big mistake. She should have gone back. She should have gone back, because that woman was very good to all those kids. There was a woman who took on 5 kids.
Yeah.
She was very hard to hear.
And then Grandma met her husband in Milan.
Yeah.
Okay, Uncle Eduardo.
Yeah.
And did he come to the States just to make
He came to the States. He lost his job because he had a very good job. He had charge of, they had a war with Tripoli. He had charge of the shipping of different tubes and that. And he got so drunk he had the instructions in his pocket of a certain shipment, and they had warned him, and then finally he was let go. And my mother said it was a good job.
Yeah. So he decided.
So then he didn't decide. No. My mother, I guess, decided, his family decided, and they felt if he came to America, he'd get away from these old friends. But you see, in a way, when he was brought up, I don't know about his father died just before I was born. That's why they named me Mealie. His sister and brother-in-law had a tavern. And my father then was about 15, 16, and it was a bad
influence. Yeah.
Well, that's what they said.
Yeah.
It was. But then he married, and he had a good job, but he didn't know how to keep it.
Yeah. So he came to the States first, wanted to establish, and then...
and then he was all ready to go back. He didn't like America at all. Evidently, I don't know. Grandma wasn't the type that explained too much. Evidently, he wrote and said, I'm coming back. But meanwhile, she was coming here.
So what prompted her at that time to take just you and not Mom as well?
Because Lena had that bad leg.
Okay.
She had been in the hospital. She had been in casts, and I think her father said to her, why don't you leave her here and come back for her? I don't know.
So in your early years, you lived in, and then when Eduardo...
When I was 2, we came in.
When Eduardo came to the States, Grandma and you went over, and Mom went back to Barat to be with the Ingenuities.
She was with Rosetta's
right.
mother.
Okay.
In fact, they were like sisters. They were practically the same age. When my mother had Lena, not Lena, me. I was the last one. She had, when Lena was born, they were born very close. And the understanding was that she'd come back in a year for Lena. After all, she was coming to a strange country.
Sure.
She didn't know what it was going to be like.
Sure.
And her father said, look, Maria, leave her here. We'll take care of her. And then the war came. And she gave money to so many of these people that worked on the boats to bring her over.
Yeah, World War I, right?
Yeah. And them jumped her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
She never heard from them anymore.
Yes.
Or this one introduced her to so-and-so works on this boat. And then Uncle Tony, when he got out of the Italian army, he thought, I'll go to America.
Right. And so then Eduardo was here And what was the interval before Grandma came over?
I think about a year.
It was about a year. And then it was 8 years between her arrival and Mom's coming over.
Yeah.
And Mom came over with Tony?
Uncle Tony.
And who else? Just Tony?
No, but yes. He came just with Lena because Mother sent money. He sent money for him to travel second class. Uncle Tony, then there was another young girl, a young woman from Bana who was coming to America. And she was coming third class. See? So...
Ellis Island, because of the lights.
Yeah.
Lights is
So,
here, that I know.
the Grand was ready, you know. Then they told us they were third class. And she knew third class, they were going to go to Ellis Island. They were going to Ellis Island anyway. If you're third class, you went to Ellis Island. If you were first or second, I don't know, first but second, you didn't go to Ellis Island.
Wow. They took care of you on the boat, more or less?
Well, I guess they took care of the paper.
Really?
Left the boat.
Just, yeah?
Yeah, you left the boat. Well, I guess.
Well, how could you get into the country if you were an immigrant?
Well, they had the immigration man there.
There it is. See, that's right.
So, it meant that for a week, Grandma was going to the dock, sending packages up,
While they were
and
still
she
on
would see Uncle Tony.
for a month.
No, a week.
A week.
A week. But a cold January week, that was. Then, when they went to Ellis Island, it was quarantine.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yep. Yep.
Island, and she had to go down to Ellis Island. Then she had to face the thing that she had the lice.
Nice.
So, Grandma said she slipped her $5 and the woman there.
Yeah. Well, this was about 1922, if I can recall. 20, because Mom was 12, right?
She was 12.
So that, and she was born in 1908, I think, or 1910. Wasn't she?
She was born 1911.
1911.
She was born about, 1908, because it's a year and a half.
Right, so this was like 1920.
Yeah, because I was born January.
Mhm.
Close to the new year.
And then you guys lived on the west side.
Then we lived on 8th Avenue on the west side.
And then we got the other tape from before. Last night. Yeah.
He then joined, he became, I guess, a French citizen.
Ercole.
Ercole. And he was very, very close to Vidal one time, and they thought that he would drop, maybe stop to see the family, but he never did.
Never did, huh? And that's something.
Because he grew up, already left.
And how did,
See, a lot of the northerners there in Italy, the northern part there, the Milan and all that, they go into France to work.
Sure, because it's close.
That's right.
And I remember coming down from Germany with a lot of Italian workers returning home.
Home, yeah.
And then when I would go back to Germany, there'd be a lot of Italian workers going north to work up there.
Yeah.
But how did Vittoria end up in Pittsburgh?
Well, Vittoria then, from what I hear, I don't know how true this is, Uncle Louis was at...
Uncle Louis, who was he? He was
her husband.
Okay, that
The
Louis...
accordion player.
Right. Is Uncle Louis Elsa's father?
Yeah, yes. He was at one of the Varroa people there, and he saw her picture. He thought, oh, what a nice girl she is.
His last name was Valley, right?
Valley, yeah. And then he wrote to her, and then he had her come over. And they got...
So he was from Pittsburgh.
No, he was in New York.
Oh, and then they
Then
graduated.
they went to Pittsburgh.
I see.
How he got... Well, he played the accordion. He maybe got a job there.
I
I
see.
don't know. I don't know.
But it's good to go over this because it brings back things into your accounting that, that...
So then he said, he was Uncle Louis was very good in the nightclub. And then during the war, they had a benefit on the stage. 34th Street had a theater at that time. And he was in an act with another woman who sang. He was terrible. He just froze.
No kidding.
Yeah. He never was on the stage again.
Go back out with that, sure.
Did he string?
Where?
Stephen Place up near 125th Street.
Oh, up in
The west side, near the drive.
near the
Near the drive, in the top, and it's Stephen Place, near the drive.
and you would
Shh, guys, you gotta be quiet for
take
me.
the subway down
I
to
think the subway was right nearby.
right to Wall Street, huh?
Yeah. And,
Well, when did you start milking? What year was that? 30?
in the 30s,
Yeah, mid-30s, right?
So in all, I was lucky because even when I had to fill up a full-time up in the full-time offer. The treasurer of St. Regis Paper Company walked with the camp. And we sat in front of the fireplace and shook hands with Mr. Price. And he liked the idea of buying the place.
And that's something. You had no intention of selling at that time, right?
Oh,
It was
yes.
just,
Oh, yes.
oh, you were looking for a buyer?
I already put in money to advertise.
I see.
I lost that too.
Mm-hmm.
Which was good.
It worked out okay, huh?
It worked out okay because I had a full-time offer in New York.
That's what we're writing, right?
That's right. And I had been working part-time in New York. And
Well, that was nice of, you know, that was a good, that was the optimum situation, working part-time at Riley and then being able to take off from April until November.
and sell the camps and then get into a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
So as I say, all in all, it's pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's, and you did 10 years full-time with him, right?
That's right. Full-time 10 years.
Because I remember the Nungesser apartment, and then from Nungessers you went over to the Long Island.
Yeah, right.
And did you buy right away or did you rent?
No,
I think you guys bought right away, didn't you?
Oh, when we...
When you moved to...
yeah, I think we did.
You were right near Gillen Lodge, too. You weren't too
Yeah,
far from
right,
them.
that's right. So,
And my earliest memories of going over there was in the command car. With no heat.
yeah. Yeah, at the time.
We used to go over, when you would come and pick us up down at 15th Street, and we'd go in through the Midtown Tunnel, and over into, or we'd go up to the GW and go across that way to visit Gillen Lodge with Mom and Dad.
And you were in the car?
In the command car, remember? I mean, I was only a little boy, but I remember how cold it was.
I would
Because
pick you up.
yeah, there was no heat in that car.
But it wasn't.
And I remember you would buy surplus vehicles to use for moped, to get in on the roads, and you know, you had the Jeeps and you had the command car, and you were always prone to buying those type of things, so that you could negotiate that little trek in before they had the road that went around to the camp. Did you put that road in yourself?
But the lumber company.
The lumber company. That's right.
When they bought the camp, they built the road into camp.
Well, from the time that you made the agreement to sell until the time that you left, what interval? How many, was it a couple of years or a little less?
No.
It was quick, huh?
Maybe 6 months or so.
Really?
I had to go up in New York, and I decided I was going to advertise the camp for sale. He came into camp, we made a deal, bingo, bingo, and we stayed with them for a couple of months, and then I took off.
What, was he a guest, or was he just looking?
No, he wasn't, he had never been into moped.
Yeah.
Into the lot.
Well, what prompted him to come up?
I think
And look at it.
he must have heard from someone interested that I was taking a sign. And they wanted it because they could entertain people there. It was a good thing for them too.
I remember you told me he even built that.
Yeah, right.
But now, in relation to the camp, where was the helipad?
In between the two lakes.
Oh, in that little
In
isthmus
that
there.
one there, in there.
That little isthmus right off the beach.
They made a pad.
Yeah. I mean, there are some things I remember about Mopang that were just when Roger and I were on the East Coast, on the Lovejoy Cove, digging worms one day for fishing.
Yeah.
And we looked out in the water, and we saw a buck swimming across, and about 50 yards behind it was a mountain lion swimming same direction, trying to catch up to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Yeah. And I remember with the turtle, with you, when we had gone into town, or with Marguerite and Mealie took us somewhere. We went somewhere. Marguerite was driving, and you stayed back. There was nobody in camp, and you were bathing. Let the head pop up,
Oh, yeah.
and then you went and got your gun, and you sat on the porch.
Yeah.
And we came back, and there he was
Yeah.
on the beach.
Yeah, right.
And then we threw him in the dump,
That's right.
and the animals just came and went crazy.
That was a big turtle.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. What a size. And then,
That's why I shot it.
Yeah. but your telling of this story was so enthralling, like you waited for the head to pop and then bam, he got up a couple of rounds, and he got him. And then, after he floated to the surface, we just pulled him in. And I remember when we dropped him down at the garbage pit, the bears that would come down there and the animals that feed on it, because that was prime meat to them. And within 2 days, all there was left was the empty shell. And I remember the raccoons that used to come up to the back.
Oh, yeah. You always have raccoons.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, everything over there is different. That area is the wilderness anymore.
Yeah. That's amazing to think, because that was really wilderness.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember driving up to Shoppy Hill to get the mail,
Yeah.
and going out into Bangor once a month or once every couple of weeks to shop when you would do your shopping,
Yeah.
the big shopping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was another era, huh?
Another
Well, how much of it had you completed before you went into the Army?
Well, we had the shells. We didn't have anything inside. The buildings were all finished.
And where was your shelter while you were building? Did you build?
We slept in a tent.
Oh, in a tent. Okay, a big tent, huh?
No, not a big tent. Small tent. And we slept on the ground. And when I came back to Wolfgang, the buildings were okay. Somebody had broken into the big camp and taken something that I wanted to do. But they locked the door. And they had broken the lock, but they locked the door.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing was hurt really.
Yeah.
Otherwise the camp's in good shape.
And how did you assemble a crew to help you finish it? Just
We had a lot of things to be done.
yeah, but you had to get. How did you get the guys? Or did you get friends, or did you hire people?
Well,
Or
I couldn't get a man to build a fireplace, so I built it myself.
in the main lodge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was a beautiful fireplace.
I built that myself.
That was a beautiful fireplace.
That was a big one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the weather looks pretty good. We've had good days.
Yeah, this has been Chamber of Commerce. It really has.
I miss the people next door to me. There's always something going on.
Really?
Well, everything's set on the street.
In my walk to the pool and back, I didn't pass one person out,
No,
and maybe not even a half a dozen cars.
quiet.
Very quiet. Very, very quiet. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's too quiet. I stay in and sit in and I think, my God, I wish somebody come over and talk to me.
I know what you mean. And when you visited France, you'd stay there.
No, my father used to go back and forth a lot.
What'd your father do?
He was a chef. He opened the
Oh, he was a chef. That's amazing how your side of the family.
right. He opened the car line in New York.
Oh, what?
He opened the car line.
Oh, Hotel Carlisle. Or the Carlisle Restaurant.
Car line hotel.
Hotel, yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot of work there, but he used to go back and forth to us, take the boat and go. Well, I don't know. Oh. The elbow is squishy.
Yeah.
Well, then you should eat a piece of bread, butter or something.
So give me the French school. What happened?
Well, she said, it's a French school for French children, but she took my 2 boys. She was Italian. She won't his. So she asked Madame Anna. Well, she said, yes, I have an opening, I'll take her. And that was the best thing that could have happened for my mother. Because I'd go for lunch there, and then after school till 6 o'clock and go home. And lucky, he was 28th Street.
Mm-hmm.
It was 9th Avenue, 8th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
We lived here. I didn't have to cross any street
You walk around the block.
until I got here, and they had a policeman for the school. The school was there. For lunch, then I
It's an
could...
easy place to get to.
For lunch, I went to the French school for lunch.
And mom would
6
too.
o'clock.
Mom would too, right? My mother?
Yeah, when she came from Italy, I don't think she was that crazy for the French school. Because, you know, the restrictiveness was hard for her. That's where I met Andre.
I wonder if when they discovered her bad leg, anything could have been done to her.
Well, when they discovered her bad leg, when she went to Milan, she was in Milan. She took her to a pediatric place in Milan, but it was a year later.
I see.
It should have been taken care. They didn't notice it till she started to walk.
And what was it diagnosed as? A condition when she was born?
Could have been done.
She was a breech birth.
And they pulled her out, it broke?
She was a breech birth.
When they pulled her out,
They noticed it. She was standing up trying to walk. Just go over. Then my mother took her in Milan to the hospital. And she used to take her every week or every 2 weeks. And they'd put her in a cast and all, a different position. I think it took about a year, but
And nothing worked?
today they could have been.
today,
Oh, my goodness.
today they know. You know what I mean? Today.
Well,
Don't forget that was a long time ago. A lot of changes come
yeah.
20 years ago.
But when she came here, my mother took her to Cowards, you know, for Cowards.
For the shoes.
What was
Special
that?
shoes,
Oh, yeah?
Cowards, oh yeah. She hated those shoes. They were high. But then when she was 17, she wouldn't wear the correct shoe. She started with the plain little pumps.
Well, being a hairdresser, I guess she was on her feet a lot, too.
Of course, that was the wrong thing she should have done.
Yeah.
She was stubborn too. And Frank used to tell Lena, just wear those shoes around the house. You know, when you go out, you change them. She was stubborn. She wouldn't. She wouldn't do that. Well, it was tough.
Yeah.
In a way, she had it kind of, you know, a leg. And then Georgie was the one.
But you were beautiful girls as youngsters, you really were. I've seen pictures of you two as, you know, in the early years.
Yeah, that one picture you have of First Lovely that you gave me.
Mm-hmm.
Did you who gave me? No, Sonny gave me, not you.
All right.
I have a lovely picture gave me of Lena. I never saw that picture. And Gina had it.
Has Sonny gone back to Barra? I don't think so, huh? I don't know if we've ever been
No,
there.
they took a trip to Italy and they went to see her relatives in Pisa.
When Mary was alive.
Yeah. And they passed that road that passes Ferrara. And he wouldn't go because he didn't speak Italian. And she spoke such beautiful Italian, Mary.
Oh, so what's the big deal?
So I said, now I was very surprised because,
Give me a hand here.
what is this?
Got down on my knee.
Well, how old were you when you went back there?
Oh, I stayed there.
He was between 3 and 5.
And then I would go downstairs for breakfast, and I'd put the fried potatoes into the milk and coffee, and it was good. In fact, when I get back to the States, I want to do that too. And then, of course, I spent a year when I was a kid in Geneva, Switzerland. My people left me there. And they used to leave me different places.
But you always returned.
I always came back.
Well,
My mother said that my grandmother on my father's side, she wanted no part of me. Lena, she'd take any time, but me, Lena was a good little baby.
grandmother. That would be my great grandmother. No? Yes. No.
No. No.
Yeah. Your grandmother would be my great grandmother. Right. But you know,
No, she wouldn't be on your side. It's on my father's side. You know what I mean?
Yes.
My father's side.
But the incidents of
What happened?
the incidents of coincidence that occurs throughout a family's existence is just sometimes it gets eerie, you know, with the who's related to who and who met who where, but there's stories that need to be just, you know, go on and on, so that, you know, if the kids ever have questions about the heritage, you know, where it came from, how it came about. But
And you see the person lived right across the road from my grandmother's place. But my father used to... Yeah. My father used to go on the race, the car race. I mean the... bicycle race that they would run every year.
Uh-huh.
He used to get in on that because he was a friend of the Peugeot. And
So his father never liked America.
yeah, that's on both sides. Like Eduardo never liked America.
Well, Eduardo,
And
no.
I mean,
Eduardo wanted to go back.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder why. I wonder why they didn't find
It was
it.
a different life over in Europe.
My father missed his buddies, and he never spoke English. The only thing he knew in English were all the curse words. Son of a bee and this and that and that. And once we were coming home from Uncle Tony. We take the Hudson Tube.
Yes, at the Jersey City, right.
Coming to New York around 8, 9 at night, 9 o'clock. And he was cursing. My mother had to quick get off the train because opposite them was a woman, and my mother didn't know if she was a policewoman or what she was, but she heard all this cursing. She was ready to get the guard and arrest them.
Yeah.
So they quick got off the train fast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that. I was with them, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's just,
We know all the cursing. Son of a
See, my grandmother, when the Germans, the First World War, when the Germans came over the border, they came right through her hometown. She took off with my father in a carriage. And she locked up the house and put the money.
She buried some gold coins.
Gold coins on the facing of the house. And then she came back to the house.
And it was there?
After the Germans.
And we saw the house.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
we were still there when you went.
The house was there. Margaret had gone before, and then she told us about it, and we saw it. The big stone house, and you could see the square block. They owned all that. They did own all that. But then after that, who was living in it? Some people from Africa. Weren't they living in that house?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You think it's still there now?
You know, the French colonial family. But we tried to look for it the last time we went over. Remember?
What large city was it near?
Near Bedford.
Near Belshore. And when we got in the town, it was a very busy town.
Oh, yeah.
But foolishly, Margaret had forgotten the address. And we went to town hall, and they said, at least if you knew the address, we could find out who was there now, and that.
Of course, the changes hadn't been alive.
Yes.
You know, through all the years. So we did, but when we did see it, we saw the downstairs. Remember, there was a stove.
Oh, it's quite a place.
And then, Marina's mother didn't like it, though. She went over there
It was a small town.
when she had Marguerite, because his father wanted his child to be born in France. The boy, they was going to have a boy. And Margaret came.
Yeah. And then you were how many years behind her?
Year and a half.
So you're her little brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same with Lena and me, just a year and a half.
You're a little
Year and
sister.
a half. So then when she became pregnant again, she said she couldn't afford to go. And then she didn't like it. She came originally, his mother came originally from Milan. You know.
Wow.
Well, you don't know the list of
Oh, yeah.
that side of the
The
story.
hotel is still there. But
His mother, his grandmother, on his mother's side, was Swiss. I would say French Swiss, wouldn't you say? Swiss. The father evidently was Milanese because in the hotel across the street from La Scala.
Wow.
Yeah, we went
like,
there.
we went there.
We
some
slept
years
there.
ago.
We slept.
Years ago.
So Mrs. Marriott was brought up in that environment, and now she speaks Italian. She knows Milanese, you know. And then her father had a heart attack. I think he was in his 50s. But she always told us that they always ate their dinner in their quarters, you know, before they served dinner at the hotel. She was, I think, I don't know how old she was when he died, but she was around 18 when the mother then, see, the father had a partner. And Reenie's grandmother used to help at the cashier, and now she was, naturally, when the husband died, she was partner there with that, but he very nicely was cheating her. And then all of a sudden, there was nothing. Here she was, Mrs. Marriott's sister, and a brother, younger brother. There were three.
Three. That's so you had an uncle and an aunt.
And Mrs. Marriott was about 18 then. So, Mrs. Marriott's mother naturally went to her mother in Switzerland. See, her mother was in Switzerland. So she went to Switzerland, and then she learned dressmaking, and Mrs. Marriott hated Switzerland. Now, you wouldn't think so. Everybody loves it. She said the winter, all that snow and all that. And then I don't know how old she was. She learned dressmaking. But her sister stayed there and married an Italian.
In Switzerland?
In Zurich. In Zurich. We saw the his children in the house, big apartment house. And the mother was there and she passed away. And then Mrs. Murray decided to go to Germany. So she spoke a little German. So by the time she came to America, then she had a couple of aunts on your mother's side. Yes.
He was one of our aunts worked for her.
She had a couple of aunts. One aunt was governess to Edison.
Thomas Edison?
Yeah, Mrs. Murray. And then there was another one. No, those were on your father's side.
That's right.
They were Mealie. No, I'm wrong there.
Yeah.
She went to Germany. She came then to America. She wouldn't go back to Switzerland. And that's how she met his father. And it mixed up. Now, on his father's side, two of his sisters were here.
And one was the governess too.
One was the governess. So the governess then, I don't know what happened with Edison. He went elsewhere. She went back to Switzerland. And at that time, when they had the influenza,
the big epidemic.
Margaret caught the flu. And the doctor said, you know how they used to say you should go in the mountains and get fresh air and that. So then the one aunt there wrote and said to his mother and father, why don't you send, I don't know how they brought her over. Maybe his father brought her over. I don't know. I got that mixed up. Well, anyway, Margaret went over. But then she wouldn't want to bring her back. You know what I mean? So then Mrs. Marriott said, I'll have to go over and get her. She wasn't going to leave. Then we have a cute picture of him and Margaret. And the grandmother, and so she went over and got it.
Wow.
But we have two spoons from that.
We stayed at that hotel when we were in Milano.
It's now a commercial hotel. It's very commercial. It's nice, small.
Well, was that when Edison was in New Jersey? Menlo Park, when he was doing his experiments? And
yes, and all that. Yes.
Because isn't that funny? Because we lived not far from where he lived when he was in New Jersey. When we lived in Edison.
Oh, yes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Edison.
We were right, you know, like, in other words, not 2 miles up was his house.
You should have gone and visited her.
It was his house when it even had a large monument with a light bulb on top of it.
That was... I'm going to show you two spoons we have here. And they were designed with the name Mealie.
And where are these spoons from?
From the, I think the governor.
The governess of Thomas Alva, huh?
Yeah, I can't find my other one. I have another one. But this one's a very pretty silver.
Boy, that must be old.
This one's good. The other is squeezed on the back of it. You see Marriott on it.
There it is, yep. Now, what is this from? This is from
the governess, I think. That spoon. And the other one is a grapefruit spoon. From the governess.
You can imagine how old that is.
Yeah.
So, of course, his mother gave it to us because of, you know, the name, Marguerite didn't have that name.
But why did they engrave it? Was that just their silverware?
I suppose she had her own. She was a spinster. She never married. And I suppose she must have had her own. It's a pretty design, though, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what happened there at the end, right? They started to sound like they'd been sucking on helium. Like I said, it was a very jerry-rigged recording. Basically, I had to cut it into pieces, hold it up to the desktop computer I had at the time, microphone, and play it for as long as the recording would go on the old Windows. And like I said, this is probably back in 2000 or maybe even a little bit before. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that. Again, a lot of stuff in there. I don't know if he had more tapes because, like I said, it kind of runs out. But interesting family history. Enjoyed sharing that with you. Wish I had more of my dad. Always like hearing the sound of his voice. So yeah, this will hopefully live on now in posterity now that it's on YouTube and the internet never deletes anything. So take care and God bless.